Hello everyone, it's Michelle at Inhale Yoga Studio, and I want to come to you today with a practice to help kind of balance out some of the tightness on the front of the chest, the overworking of the upper back, neck, and shoulders. For those of you who are making masks for the healthcare workers and people on the front lines, for those of you who are suddenly finding yourselves sitting at home on your computer, even more than maybe you would have been if you were at the office. In general, just that feeling of kind of moving forward, dropping downward. It's kind of our posture of giving, if you think about that. When we're giving, we're tending to put our heart forward, right? So if we're cooking, we're kind of in that same posture. Sewing masks, we're in that same posture. Giving our time and energy for whatever our work is, as it's digital, whether you're a student, whether you're an office worker, whatever it is that you're doing. So all of these kinds of tasks that we do that put us in a situation of being a giver of our time, of our energy, tend to do a lot to kind of close off the front of our body and open the back of our body. And when the back of the body starts talking, like those pains in the neck, around the shoulders, where you just want to squeeze, when those things start to take over, that's actually a conversation of your heart saying it's time to give back to yourself, to pull away from everything else, to give back to yourself. And in part of that giving back to yourself, what needs to happen is actually a pulling back to open up across the chest and to build strength in the back body so that you have the strength to carry on, so that you have the strength to open the heart and give again, right? And it's this cycle. It's this cycle of allowing ourselves to give, but then listening when we need to receive, when we need to become strong again, when we need to hit the pause button and turn back inwards. So today, my focus for the class is coming into that place where you, as a giver, get the opportunity to step back and do something for yourself, to receive, to build your reserves of strength, to build that power in the space of your heart, to be able to continue with the kind of giving that you want to be giving, that you want to be doing. But you have to be able to manage your own resources as you're in that aspect of giving. So for today's practice, I'd like for you to have a strap. If you watched my other video, I also showed you that a strap can be also a belt that you would wear around your waist. It's got to be just bigger than your waist would be, but also it could be a robe tie, it could be a jump rope, it could be anything that's just a long rope. Right? You want it to be about this wide at least, maybe a little bit more so that it's wider than your shoulders and definitely wider than your body. So I want you to have a strap. And then also, I think we'll use a couple blocks, I'm not sure, but let's put them out here anyway. A couple blocks are going to be really great for some of the things that we might find ourselves getting up to. And then also, I'd like for you to have a bolster if you have one at home. If you don't have one at home, really thick, dense blankets like these yoga blankets will be really fantastic. You could use 2 of those, and if you have like a long rectangle like this, just folding it in 3s and doing that twice and stacking it up makes a really nice size bolster. You're also going to want a thick blanket, and we're going to turn it into this rectangle, and then from the neatly folded edge, we're going to roll that up to the non-folded edge, so that ultimately what you end up having is something kind of like this, just this long blanket roll. And we're going to use that for a couple of things as well. So in the last video that I did, I think it was last week, it might have been 2 weeks ago, in the last one we did, we focused a lot on opening the hips, of creating some movement, of opening of the chest. We did a lot of percussion work, which at this point in time is super important. So refer back to that so you can keep that percussion work going on your chest, on your shoulders, around your lungs. We want to keep things moving, not sitting in there, especially if you know someone who is sick, whether it's with the COVID virus or whether it's just a general cold or flu. Get that percussion going. Really start moving things around and work with that Brahmari breath to keep things moving. If you're sick with COVID, it's probably going to be a little hard to do that, but you want to keep those things moving. Don't let things stick to you. Keep that virus moving. Keep it moving out. Don't lay down for it. Okay? So take a few moments, get your props set up, and then we'll begin in a seated position, whatever's comfortable for you. So legs can be crossed, you can be stacked up on things. But take a moment to grab your props, and then we'll all come back here together to get this practice started today. Okay, so hopefully you have your props, and as I mentioned, we're gonna start in the seated position. So I'm sitting up on about 4 stacks of blankets here. You can sit up on a bolster, on blankets, on blocks, whatever makes you feel comfortable. One of the things about sitting cross-legged, if you're gonna choose that, is you want your knees to be just a little bit lower than your hips. This puts less pressure on your hips and low back, and it allows your spine to lift and float up out of the hips in a way that's much easier than if you're sitting on the floor and then you get that gripping tightness and your knees go up. So sit up as high as you need to if you're sitting cross-legged to let your knees be a little lower. It's okay to sit with your legs stretched out. And it's also okay if you want to use 1 or 2 of those blocks, if you prefer to put a block behind you and sit on that block in a kneeling position. That's sometimes a lot easier for people with tight hips, but that have mobile knees and ankles. So whatever works best for you. Let's go ahead and come into a nice, comfortable seat. And as you come into that comfortable seat, we're just going to start by closing the eyes and taking a few moments to hone our attention. So already I've talked about a lot of different things as we've started here. So now's the time that we can just start to let the information of what I've said, the information of what's going on in your day, that's on your social media feeds, that's in your internet or your email, just letting all of that kind of become like the background noise of a breeze outdoors. And let your attention turn its focus to the feeling of what you're sitting on, so the feeling at the base of your body as it's making contact with what's holding you to sit there. Notice perhaps a feeling of heaviness, of groundedness as you sit. And also notice if you can feel somewhere in the middle of that, maybe at the bowl or the base of the pelvis, maybe just a little bit higher above that, a feeling that begins of a lightness or a levitation, if you will, so that the center of the body, the torso, the spine, feels like it's just lightly lifting and floating up out of that stable base of your hips, of the seat. And notice if you're adding extra effort, if you're trying to pull your spine up or you're lifting from your shoulders, and see if you can let the effort be just enough to feel that lightness upward rather than to work toward or work for that lightness. Right? When we work toward or for that lightness, what ends up happening is we overwork and we miss it altogether. So just letting the base of the body be grounded and heavy, and then feel somewhere in the center of that how there is just that natural inclination to rise off the base and up. Notice if your shoulders are up near your ears or if your center chest is caving a little forward. And see if you can let the heart space be a little lighter, the pit of the throat be a little lifted, and the base of the shoulder blades become just a tad bit heavier as they move toward the hips. And again, none of this is really an extra muscular effort. It's more just allowing a lightness to arrive at the center of the chest, at the pit of the throat, and a heaviness to arrive at the base of the shoulder blades. And then, of course, over top of all of that, feel the back space of the jaws just in front of the ears, the sides of the temples, and the peak of the top of the head. Feel those three things start to feel a lightness arrive there as well, so that the entirety of the head from those 3 points begins to feel also like it's floating above the space of the torso. And just again, a reminder, this is not an extra efforting. This is not a trying to find those. It's waiting and tuning in so that that feeling of lightness arrives through the spine, the center chest, the pit of the throat, the jaws, the temples, the top of the head. And so that feeling of heaviness arrives in the back of the shoulder blades, the bottom tips of the shoulder blades, the base of the hips, the legs. And we feel the body in balance that way, that balance, that negotiation between heaviness to be grounded and lightness to be free. And just let your attention turn into your breath. And notice the pattern of your breathing. Maybe it's a little longer on the inhale or the exhale. Maybe already you've started a balance to your breath. Just notice the pattern of your breathing. And then just let your in-breath be a couple seconds longer than it already is. So as you breathe in, purposefully and intentionally slow down and let the breath deepen. Pause at the top when you have your breath full and feel the sense of fullness, not over fullness, just full, complete. And then let the breath come out so that you're empty. And feel the emptiness, again, not an over emptiness, just that sense of complete. And as the in-breath stretches out a couple seconds more than the out-breath, looking for that feeling quality of complete with the breath in as you pause, and complete with the breath out as you pause. We really want to make contact with that feeling of what it is to feel complete, to feel that sense of wholeness. Because as we move through our practice today, that's what I'm going to ask you to be looking for, that sense of feeling complete, like you've met where you're meant to be, rather than striving for where you think you should be. We're just settling into that place of complete, that place of this is good enough, this is right where I need to be. So a few more times here with the breath as you let the inhalation just stretch a little longer, finding that sense of complete and resting in it so you connect with the feeling quality, and then letting the breath flow out. And as the breath is gone, pausing for a moment so that you rest in that sense of complete, feeling what that feels like. And then just setting intention for this practice today to allow your mind to be on the lookout in each thing that we do for that sense of complete, for that feeling of wholeness, for that feeling of just enough. And when it feels like you're tipping over the edge and striving for something you think you should be doing, allow yourself to pull back and find that feeling quality of complete. And so to let that intention ring true in your heart, your mind, and the environment in which you practice, we can let the hands come like a prayer to the heart, and we can begin our practice with the vibration of Om. Feel free to join in with me, or you can just let the vibration wash over you. So to begin, we'll take a slow, long breath in for Om. And you can let the head bow toward the heart, just as a reminder of that intentionality to be in that place of enough, that place of complete, that feeling quality of being right where you need to be. And we can let the head lift away. And while we're here, we're going to just interlace the fingers. And as you inhale, you're going to push your palms forward to me and then reach them up and overhead. It's okay to do that with bent elbows, especially if you're tight in the chest. If you can, press up through the heel of the hand and rotate the palm upward so the pinky turns more toward the floor behind you, the index finger more toward the ceiling above you. Again, work within your range of motion. And take another big breath in here. And as you exhale, we're going to let the arms waterfall off to the side, slightly forward. And then once again, hands to the heart, interlace the fingers. Inhale, push forward and reach up. Again, it's fine with elbows bent. We're going to hold here and take a deep breath in, spinning the pinkies toward the floor behind you. And then as you exhale, we'll take the arms wide and down. And one more time, we're going to interlace the fingers. As you inhale, push forward and reach up. And then as you exhale, arms will move out to the side and down. And just pause for a moment. So we're just greasing up the shoulders a little bit before we dive in too deep. And we're going to take the arms out to the side in a T, and then just take a look down your arms and notice if your wrists are behind your shoulders. Oftentimes we take the arms out to the side, the wrist ends up behind the shoulders. This puts a lot of pressure on the back. So let's take the wrist just slightly in front of the shoulders. And again, you can just look down the arms for that. And then we're just going to alternatively rotate the arms. So let's say the right thumb is going to turn up toward the ceiling and back toward the wall behind you, while the left thumb turns toward the floor and to the wall behind you. And then we just keep doing that, alternating left to right, reversing. And this is just wringing out the shoulder joint. And as you do this, you're working to try to reach out through the arms as you rotate the shoulders. Again, looking for that place of complete. So notice if you're overdoing it, and back off a little bit and just feel that place of complete. Good, so we started with the right palm going back, thumb going back. So once we take the right thumb down, we're going to spin both palms up. And then let the shoulder blades feel heavy again. As you inhale, reach up like you're holding a ball above your head. Again, your hands might be really wide for that, given the range of motion for your shoulders. They might be closer in. And take a big breath in. And then as you exhale, we're going to spin the palms out and push the air downward so that you bring the hands to a rest. And your shoulders might feel a little bit worn out from that because it's very big movement. Or, well, it's very small movement, but very big effects in the shoulder joint. Okay? Super. All right, then from there, we're going to take the hands, we're going to go palms up, and then push the wall away from you. As you push the wall away from you, notice if the arm bone comes forward out of the socket, and we're going to keep the arm bone in the socket and really reach out through the heel of the hand. Press through the base of the hand as you draw back through the armpit and down through the back of the shoulder blade. So you've got your shoulder joint working strongly to stay connected. As you reach out through the heel of the hand, you should be feeling this really big stretch and opening on the underside of the hand. And take a breath in. And then as you exhale, let's point the fingers down toward the floor and take the top of the wrist and reach out through the top of the wrist. Again, let the armpits reach backward so the shoulder stays in the socket, the shoulder blade downward. If you're doing too much, by now you'll start to feel that thing where you need to massage your shoulders. That tells you you're already doing too much, that you're beyond the point of complete. So back off a little bit, relax the shoulders down. Don't put as much energy and effort into it. And take another big breath in. And then as you exhale, hands come to neutral, let them come down to rest. Again, you might feel this letdown of energy in the arms from where we've been holding the arms up, holding the shoulder steady. So take a moment to feel the relaxation, the ease wash over the relaxation as the arms go down. Great. And then let's go ahead now and take the legs if you're sitting cross-legged, just so we can get a little bit of evenness through the hips. Look at your feet, whatever leg is in front, move that to the back so that you change the cross of your legs. It'll probably feel a little awkward here, and that's okay. Try to stick with that. There's that tendency to switch them back immediately once it starts to feel awkward. So if you can, try to stay with that awkwardness until it starts to settle in and become a little more comfortable. And then we're going to grab that strap. And this is probably one of my favorite shoulder strengtheners. And again, it's super easy to do too much here. So we're connecting to that intention of completeness, of just enough. Okay? So we're going to take the hands out wide. The palms are going to turn down on the strap, and we're going to kind of wrap around to make a fist over the strap. The wrists are wider than the shoulders, and this is really important. You may have to go wider to make this happen. So again, stop anywhere along the way, but what we'll do first to start is take a breath in and reach the wrists up so that they're just above the shoulders like that. Then, again, take the center of the armpits backwards so that you bring the shoulder girdle and joint together and make it stable like we did before. You'll feel how the shoulder blades get a little heavier when you do that. And then press out on the strap. And as you press out on the strap like you're trying to make it go longer, you'll feel the outer edges of your arms tone. This is important. We want that to happen. We want that strength happening in the back body again. Then, keeping that press out, we're going to inhale and take the strap up so it's just above the forehead or just above the eyes. We're still pressing out. Take the armpits down toward the floor. As you do that, you'll feel your shoulders melt away from your ears. And then again, we're going to inhale. If you can, we're going to take the strap up and overhead. Press out into the strap. Take the armpits and the tips of the shoulder blades down toward the floor. And that makes space between your ear and your upper neck. And take a few breaths in and out here. Again, applying just enough effort so that you feel the muscles engage, but not so much that you feel like you need a shoulder rub. And then take a breath in. As you exhale, we're going to press out through that strap the whole time as you bring it down. We want to keep that joint engaged. And then as you get down, this is where you relax, and then you can feel those muscles soften that we were working. Hopefully you're feeling it back here in the back of the shoulder joint and in the space of the upper back. This is where we want to be working. So this is the part that's getting overstretched and a little bit weak and tired. And so we're opening up through the chest, building that strength in the back so we can communicate and give more of ourselves as the weeks go on. So again, we'll do the same thing. We're going to take the wrists wider than the shoulders, pull out on the strap with just enough effort that you feel the muscles along the outer back edge of the shoulder and arm engage. Right? And then from there, we're going to take the strap up so that the wrists are just higher than the shoulders. The strap might be kind of like at your chin or mouth. Press out on the strap enough that you feel the arms engage, and then slide the armpits back so that you feel the shoulders drop away from the ears. Keep the breath moving deep and steady. And you can go a little higher if you want, pressing out on the strap as you inhale. Let the strap float just above the eyes, somewhere around the forehead. Again, melt the shoulders down so the armpits move back, the arm bones into the sockets. If you're doing too much, this is where you're going to feel like you need a shoulder rub, so back off a little. And then if you want one more, we go up and overhead, pressing out on the strap, shoulders down. Notice if your front ribs are tilting forward, and so we want to keep those grounded. A little bit of core support here for this. And take a big breath in. And then as you exhale, keep pressing out on the strap as you bring it all the way down and rest. Again, you should feel that release of effort through the back parts of the arms and shoulders, and those are the muscles we were just working. It's super important to let those relax, to release. Good, so let's give just a few moments of letting go here in the shoulders, and let's move into the neck. So with the neck, a lot of times when we're giving, the chin is forward or we're staring at the phone, like everything is just kind of falling forward. So the back of the neck gets super stretched, the front of the neck gets super tight. And our tendency is, when we're starting to feel that pressure in the back, is to want to stretch the chin toward the chest and stretch those muscles out more. The problem is they're overstretched. We want to get the front part to stretch and open, the back part to strengthen. So here's how we're going to do that. First, simple and easy. As you take a breath in, lift your chin toward the ceiling. As the chin lifts toward the ceiling, that's very different than dropping the head back. So we're actively reaching up through the bottom jaw, stretching up through the pit of the throat all the way up to the back
of the throat. And so reaching up, and the shoulder blades go down, the chest broadens out. You can feel the collarbones widen out to the very edges of the shoulders. Take a few breaths into the chest. Again, find that place of just enough, of that feeling of completeness, that place where you can just hang out and breathe. And then as you exhale, those muscles that we're stretching, see and feel them in your mind's eye engage, and then let them engage as you pull the chin to even with the floor so your head is balanced over top of your shoulders. And then we're going to interlace the fingers. You're going to take the fingers to the back of your head and point your elbows forward toward me. And when you do this, the pinky finger side of the hand is kind of going to be at that base of the skull ridge at the back of the head. And we're going to use that to kind of pull up through the back of the head while we do this. So it's almost like you're taking your hands and trying to slide them upward like that. So the hands are at that base of the skull. Your thumbs might even be down your neck a little bit. Elbows point toward me, so that lets the shoulder blades relax. And then press the head back into the hands, and as you lightly press the head back into the hands, use the pinkies to try to lift the back of the head. Now this is different than tucking the chin. We're keeping the head level with the floor, but feeling that sense of traction as you press the heel of the hand into the base of the skull and lift. At the same time, you're pressing the head back. And what you should feel is the muscles around the neck, and possibly even in the middle and upper back, engage a little bit, and the neck feels really traction by the lift of the hands. Again, take a couple deep breaths in and out here. Notice if your ribs are popping forward, and let those ground a little bit so you've got the core support. And then take a breath in. And as you exhale, we're going to release the traction with the pinkies and then bring the hands around and just pause for a moment and feel perhaps a tingling or a release around the neck, the base of the skull, perhaps even into the top ridge line of the shoulders. We're going to do that again. So again, we're going to interlace the fingers, and I'm going to come up here just a little bit closer so that perhaps you can see what I'm doing here in the back. So we're interlacing the fingers, the hands are coming down the back of the neck. My pinkies are right at that base of my skull because I want that to be what's lifting. So as I press up through the hands, like I'm sliding up, I press up, and at the same time I'm pressing my head back. You can see how the upper back is broad, so I'm not letting the shoulders kink up. I want those shoulders to stay down, and as the head presses back and the pinkies lift up, I'm tractioning through the neck and also strengthening those muscles of the neck with the press of the head back. And take a couple breaths there. And then as you exhale, you can release the traction, let the arms come down, pause for a moment. And then while I'm here, and you can see the back body, we're going to move into this space here in between the shoulder blades. So I want you to grab that strap again, and as you grab the strap, we're going to bring that behind the back, turn the palm up so that the strap lays over the palm, and you do that on both hands. The strap's going to be kind of at the lower back. Then from this place, you're going to push out on the strap, like the hands are going to go out, but the hands aren't going to slide. Instead, what happens, and just pay attention up here to my upper back, the back of my arm, and the space between the shoulder blades. What's going to happen is those muscles are going to tone, and it's going to move back into the socket. That's all just by pulling out on the strap. That engages those muscles, and that's what we want. So the arm bone moves back into the socket, and then start to slide the hands out on the strap, but do not straighten the elbow. Keep a slight bend there. Keep pushing out to roll the shoulders back. Then if you want a little bit more, you're going to take the hands, the wrists behind the shoulders, perhaps the strap off the back, and you'll see how my upper shoulder blades, my middle shoulder blades are moving toward each other. That's not a muscular effort between those shoulder blade muscles. That's by the nature of holding my arm bone in the socket and just moving my arms as I push out through the strap. So I'm letting all this work happen by the work of my hands to hold my shoulders into place, and then I'm just manipulating my arms to get those muscles to engage.
This is a big chest opener. You'll feel this really broad across the chest. And then you're going to take a breath in, and as you exhale, bring the strap back around, release, relax, and pause. Again, you'll feel in this, that place of stretch that we're getting into across the upper chest, the strength we're getting into in that space in the upper back. So you'll feel both of those things have a reaction when we come to a place to rest. And we're going to do that one more time. And this time I'll face towards you as we do it. So we'll do that one more time. The hands will be palms up, wrapping around the strap. You're going to pull out on the strap. As you pull out on the strap, that's going to take the arm bone that likes to dip forward and draw it back into the socket. Right? So you pull out onto the strap to get that back into the socket. And then we're going to slide the hands out. As you do, there's a little bit of resistance there to keep that shoulder socket engaged. Again, we're not straightening the elbows all the way, but almost there. So we just don't want to lock out the elbow. And then from there, swing the wrists back, maybe take the strap off the back. As you reach back, it's a big chest opener. You're still pressing out on the strap. And those muscles in between the shoulder blades, especially the upper and middle, are engaged, and the chest is stretching. If you're not breathing, now's a really good time to start, and also it's a good time to reconnect. Are you doing just enough, or are you trying to overdo it? Right? We're just looking for that sensation of awakening, not an overstretch. This is not like a CrossFit class or a power class. We're just looking for enough. And then as you exhale, we're going to wrap around, come back. You'll feel that sense of ease start to come into the front of the chest, and that ease in the muscles in the upper back, and the space between the shoulder blades relax. So we'll take just a couple more moments with that. Okay, and then let's go ahead and move this strap off to the side. And if you have that blanket roll at the front of your mat, you're going to move that off to the side. We're going to end with that. But before we do that, I've got a couple more things just to get us into that place of a little bit more opening and wringing out of the chest and the side body, these parts that connect in and get really tight. Again, as we do this, we oftentimes forget about this part of the body that pulls the shoulder blade around, so we want to stretch that out a little bit and get some things balanced there. So the simplest way to do that, at least for today, is that we're going to come onto the hands and knees. And as you come onto the hands and knees, we'll let the wrists be just slightly forward of the shoulders. And as the wrists are just slightly forward of the shoulders, that just gives the shoulders a little place to be at ease. And we're going to start by taking the right hand in front of your left hand, bringing the left elbow down onto the floor. And then you'll start to sit your hips back a little bit as you slide your right hand forward, and just let your head and chest drop toward the floor. What you should feel is along the right side body a sense of stretch and opening. So we want to open those serratus anterior and the connections into the arm of the latissimus that get really tight when we sit at a sewing machine, when we're over our technology. So this opens those spaces. A little bit as you're hanging out here, whenever we work in the shoulders, there's that tendency for the rib cage to want to tilt and for us to lose the connection of the core. So if you feel your front ribs dropping to the floor pretty dramatically, or you feel the base of your pelvis, the sitting bones, turning up toward the sky pretty dramatically, tone your core just a little bit to balance out your lower back. And then as you take your next in-breath, press your hands into the floor to help lift you back up into that tabletop position. Great, and then from that tabletop position, we're going to take the left hand in front of the right, bring the right elbow onto the floor, and as you slide the left hand forward, you slightly bring the left hip back. Let the head and chest come toward the floor. Again, notice if your tailbone turns up and your chest drops down. While you might feel that more intensely in the shoulder, we want the core to connect, so we want to pull back through the sitting bones, or drop back through the sitting bones and lift through the lower ribs. And if you need more depth in the shoulder, it's not by dropping the chest or winging the ribs, it's by starting to walk the fingers a little more forward and diagonal as you draw the left hip crease back and diagonal. Again, finding that place where you're not overdoing it, just making that commitment to enough. We want to feel the sensation, but not feel like we can't be with that sensation. And then the next time you take an in-breath, we'll press through the hands, come back up into tabletop position. And then in tabletop position, we're going to go ahead and take the right arm, reach it out to the side. And then as you exhale, you're going to bring the right shoulder down onto the floor as well as the right ear and come into a twist. And this is where that bolster might help. If your shoulder cannot make it to the floor, you use the bolster to bring the floor up to you. So the shoulder comes down onto the bolster and the ear can rest on the side of the bolster and you find yourself into a twist. And so whatever works for you, coming into that place where your shoulder is on the ground, coming into that place where your shoulder is on a bolster. Either way, you're using the left hand to create just a little bit of support. Let me get that out of the way. Just a little bit of support here. And let the breath deepen in and out. And then we're going to take an inhale and come up into a tabletop position. And then for the second side, we'll take the left arm, reach it out to the side, and then tuck the left shoulder down onto the floor or onto the bolster, and come into a little bit of a twist here. And then press through the right hand, and as you inhale, return back up into tabletop. And then just make your way around and into a seated position. We're going to do a little bit to open up the chest and the spine before we get into kind of our peak pose for balancing the upper back, neck, and shoulders. So what we're going to do is take this rolled blanket that we started with in the beginning, and you'll put it onto your mat. I'm going to go sideways so you have a better view about what's going on. But the whole spine, so the hips are going to be on the floor, the whole spine and head are going to be on this blanket roll. So you'll sit in front of the blanket roll, and you may have to adjust the distance from the lower back with this. So if it's too low, it might make your back feel not so great. You might want a little space between your hips and the lower back. And then you'll just roll yourself down over top of the blanket. And what tends to happen once you get down is the shoulders tend to be up a little bit. So I like to imagine I'm going into a back bend, press down into the hands and just draw the shoulder blades under a little bit. And then as the shoulder blades go under, it becomes easier to just let the arms come out to the side, the front of the arm bone drop back into the shoulders. And then what you'll feel is the spine is supported and the shoulder blades are dropping over the sides of the spine. The arm bones are moving back into the sockets. And perhaps there's a feeling of openness in the muscles at the front of the arm bones. These are the pectoralis muscles and their attachments here at the front of the arm bones. And maybe perhaps even into the part where they attach here at the collarbone. And so we'll just hang out here, palm spinning up. We want the palm spinning up to rotate the shoulder back to let the arm bone move back into the socket. So as you're resting here, I'm resting with my feet on the floor. You might find that stretching your feet out, the legs out on the floor, feels a little better for you. If you do that and it makes your lower back feel like it's going to break, that's not the thing to do. So instead, just walk your feet back in. And we'll take a couple moments here. We're going to hold about 30 seconds or so here in this posture. Each time that you breathe out, see if you can let the back of your shoulders, the back of your arms relax back deeper toward the blanket, toward the floor. And so this is just a little passive engagement. We've been doing a lot of active engagement. So it's just a little passive engagement for the arm bones, the shoulders, the upper back and neck. And I know the more time I give you here, the better it feels and the less likely you are to want to move. So you're always welcome to hit the pause button if you're like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for all my life. I need to stay here longer. If that's how you feel, hit the pause button and just hang out here. The next pose is going to be even better of a relaxing pose. So if you want to come with me now, that's fine. If your legs are stretched out, walk them in. And then we're just going to roll off of this support to one side. And then just lightly press yourself away from the floor and come up into a seated position. We're going to take this support, move it out of the way. And here's where a whole bunch of blankets, blocks and blankets, this is where all these props come into play and become really important. So here's what we want to do. We want to set the bolster up in such a way that it is parallel to the side edges of your mat. And then we want to stack up a bunch of blankets, a bunch of blocks, a bunch of throw pillows, whatever it is that you can get to stack up that's going to keep your hips and your ankles on the same line. That's the important component of this. If your hips and ankles are on the same line, your lower back is going to relax. If your if your ankles are just a little higher than your hips, that helps the back relax even more. If the ankle drops below the hip, it puts pressure on the back, lower back, and we don't want that. So you want to create whatever support that you need to be able to be in that space where your ankles are going to be higher than your hips, okay? So wrangle props in whatever way you need to be able to have something that's lifted off the floor about 3 or 4 inches like this that's going to support your whole body, your whole torso, and something that's going to be at the end of that to support your calves to lift your ankles above your hips. Once you've got that, you're going to sit in the middle of that support, prop your legs up over the leg portion of the support, and then from here, you're going to roll back and down over this bolster, and you want this top edge line of your shoulders to be on the floor. So you may have to slide on the support so that you get that top edge line of your shoulders on the floor. Once that's on the floor, the arms will come out to a T, spin the palms up. And again, this is a big opener for the center chest, for the diaphragm. Often in that sitting that we do, in that giving that we do, we cut off our breath, we cut off our diaphragm, we close the rib cage tightly around the heart. So this is opening up the space for breath. It's opening up the place of the heart. It's opening up the place of the chest, and letting that upper back, neck, and shoulders have that nice sense of rebalancing as we open everything else up. Again, with the ankles higher than the hips, this gives you the opportunity for the lower back to relax. If you can't get comfortable in the lower back, it's absolutely fine to keep your feet on the floor rather than your legs stretched out. The most important part of this posture is happening up here. We want the upper ridgeline of the shoulders and shoulder blades on the floor. The support of the bolster kind of is catching me at the bottom of my shoulder blades, right? But for you, it might be different. So you find that place, the important part, upper ridgeline of the shoulders on the floor, upper back on the floor. Feet can be on the floor, legs can be stretched out, whichever is better. Now we're going to close the eyes, let the arms rest, palms up, out to the side, and just give some time for the breath to flow here. This is a variation of supported fish pose. I sometimes call this Rio Jesus too, because of the way that the body is lined up and the arms are out to a T and the chest is really open, like that giant Jesus statue in Rio. And so just allowing yourself in that place of opening up the space of the chest, opening up that capacity to give, while you also think about yourself, while you also allow yourself to restore and recover, to find that strength and balance in the upper back, neck, and shoulders. Let your breaths flow smoothly and freely. Try not to force anything. Feel with each out breath that your body just relaxes a little bit more into the support that holds it, the floor beneath it. Let the contents that kind of circulate in the front of your mind just empty back into the floor. Let everything just feel just enough, that place of complete. Again, this is about your self-care. It's about refreshing and renewing for you. So if you're in any position that doesn't feel comfortable, if we've been here for a little bit, if things haven't settled, that tells you that you're not in the right place. So take the time to adjust your body. Sometimes a small movement here or there makes all the difference. This should feel like you could sleep here and be really comfortable. So if the low back doesn't feel comfortable, lift the stack on the ankles or put the feet on the floor. If the middle back feels like it's being broken, it's because you're too high or too low on your bolster. Just move your body a little bit. If your neck feels like it's kinked, check and see if you're being really honest about that upper back part being on the floor. If the upper back isn't lying on the floor, then the neck will feel the pressure. So we want the upper back on the floor. Again, if you're just starting to settle into this in a way that you're like, oh my God, I need at least another 5 minutes here, I invite you to pause this video or just let me keep talking and you stay right where you are. We're going to go ahead and walk the feet in though for those of you ready to move on. And we're going to roll over to one side. And then just pause there on the side, using the arm that's closest to the floor as a little pillow for your head. And then we'll press the hands into the floor and come up into a seated posture, and perhaps you'll just turn that bolster or whatever it is that you were supporting your upper body with. You can turn that around so that you can easily sit up on it. As you settle into whatever is comfortable for you as a seat, we're going to finish with a little bit of percussion. Percussion is like my new favorite thing to do these days. So you just make loose fists. And we're going to start by just tapping along the part where you feel like you have to squeeze in your shoulders. Just tap along that part. So you'll use one hand for the opposite side. And you just work your way from the shoulder toward the spine, shoulder toward the spine. And you can even come around so that you're kind of like on the side of the neck. Even turn your head away and give a little percussion on the side of the neck. And come down along the collarbone on that same side. And then work your way back up to the side of the neck, even turn your head away. And then shoulder to the center of the neck. And here's the important part. When we stop, I want you to feel the vibration that remains and notice the difference between the shoulder you're working on and the shoulder you didn't. So we'll just pause for a moment and notice the difference. Hopefully what you feel is a sense of that vibration opening the space, letting go of whatever remains and is sticky there. And then we'll do the other side because we want to let that experience be there too. So again, a light fist. We're going to start in the back and go from the shoulder toward the spine toward the shoulder. And we each have a side that's a little tighter than the other. It's usually our dominant side that's a little bit tighter unless there's been some sort of injury there. So you might notice, for me, this is my dominant side, so it takes just a little bit more there. And again, we can turn our hand away and then do that percussion along the side of the neck. Again, you're doing just enough. You're not trying to beat yourself to death here, just enough to create a little vibration that lets go of the things that are sticky. And we can turn the head forward and go down under the collarbone. And then just make your way back up along the side of the neck, turning the head away a little bit. And then you can work that shoulder. And then again, we can release and experience the feeling of that vibration. And again, with loose fists, we're going to go to the back of the head, you know, right at the base of the skull where you feel really tight there at the base of the skull. These are the muscles that actually control the eyes and move the head in response to what the eyes are seeing. And so these tend to get really tight, especially when you're at a computer and you have to look up. Those get really, really tight. So we're just going to make light percussion there. And if you like, you can take that percussion up and down, so toward the base of the skull and then down toward the shoulder. And then again, we can just let the hands relax, and it's important to feel that leftover vibration and how that just lets the sticky stuff roll off. And then I want to finish, because again, it's still at the height of my favorite things. We want to keep things moving in the chest. So I want to finish with a little percussion at the chest. So it's kind of like a little Tarzan pounding. Again, just enough. You're not trying to beat yourself to death here. Just working center chest, out below the collarbones. It's kind of fun. Remember when you were a kid and you used to be like, ah, in the fan blades? I did anyway. It's kind of like this too. So when you percussion on your chest, it gives you that same kind of feeling and sound in your voice. Okay, and then we're going to rest the chest and pause for a moment. And then again, it's really important to get the side chest. So like loose fists, we do one at a time. Just lift one arm up and pound lightly down the side of the lungs and rib cage. Again, these are really tight muscles. We did a little stretching on them. We also want to use this as a way to percussion out the muscles there, but also to get a little bit of that vibration into the side of the ribs and the side of the lungs. And then we're going to switch over and go to the other side. And then we can let the hands relax. Again, just take a moment to feel that vibration. And then we're just going to give a little love to the space down where the diaphragm is. So again, don't go too hard because that is a little bit uncomfortable. But down around the diaphragm at the bottom of the ribs. This also puts a little percussion into some of the vital organs like the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder if you still have yours, pancreas, things like that. So just a little percussion in there just to keep things moving. And then we'll relax that for a second, feel the resonance there. And then one last percussion, and then we're going to settle in for just a few moments of breath. We're going to make loose fists, and you're probably going to use the side that's like your index finger and your thumb more than all the other fingers. It just depends on your range of motion. But you're going to percussion at the back bottom of the ribs. This is where your kidneys and adrenal glands are. Super, super big deal for stress and other things. So we want to just give a little percussion there. Again, if there's anything sticking there, we want that to move on, right? We want really healthy functioning kidneys, really healthy functioning adrenal glands. And in this time right now where things are really stressful and we're uncertain, we want to just keep that energy moving. And then we can release and bring the hands back. Again, feel the vibration there. And then just let your eyes close. Let the breath deepen so that you're purposefully and intentionally focusing on a longer in-breath and a longer out-breath. And notice if you're trying to make that more than what it needs to be. So let the in-breath be easy, gentle, to that point of completion, and then pause there so you really can be honest about, are you at that point of completion or did you overshoot it? And then when you breathe out, let the breath empty out, let it be slow and easy. And when you're empty, just pause there at that point of completion and take a moment to really be honest with yourself. Are you trying to push too hard? Are you holding back? Can you just be at that easy point of completion? And follow a couple breath cycles like that, cultivating a self-awareness, giving yourself the permission to do just enough. No need for more than that. Just to the point of completion, just enough. That feeling of wholeness, of completeness. That's where we're going today. I think I said this already, but if I didn't, perhaps let your eyes close so that you can get rid of all the visual stimulus and just be in the feeling sense of the completeness of your breath in and out. So I'll end with this. Typically, in our normal life, in our non-COVID life, in our normal life, we're always trying to do more, right? We're giving 100% and trying to go that extra mile beyond that 100%. We're doing our best and trying to be better than our best all the time. And that is certainly noble. It keeps us inspired, it keeps us growing, it keeps us moving forward. But there is a place to balance that, and that's where we typically drop the ball. That ability to hit the pause button, the ability to step back, to refortify our strength, to find ourselves in that place where we are once again full, whole, complete, and complete enough in that way that we feel that energy, that fortification, that tonification of our vital essence that allows us to have the energy to carry forward, to give more, to do that 100%, strive to be better, right? So take the time to feel the completeness, to let things be enough, to step back from time to time from this superhuman endeavor to be better than we can be, and just be the best that we are, that enoughness, that completeness, that wholeness. And anytime that we feel our body start to make that response of, whoa, we're pulling out of balance, that's the indication. Stop. Do whatever practice that fulfills you, whether it's a yoga practice, whether it's to go for a walk, whether it's to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, cook yourself some amazing food, binge watch a Netflix show, whatever it is that makes you refortify yourself. Take the time, do that thing, do those things, and find that sense of completeness, of wholeness, so that you're fueled again to endeavor into the best efforts that you have. So let that become the intention that you can take away from practice and bring into your daily life. And settle that in one more time as you bring the hands like a prayer to the heart. And whether you let my Om wash over you or you join in, we'll finish our practice today with the vibration of Om. So if you will, let's take a slow breath in for Om. Namaste. So much gratitude for taking time out of your day to practice with me, and more importantly, to give back to yourself. I hope this practice helps you find a sense of openness around the chest and the heart. It helps you strengthen and fortify the upper back, neck, and shoulders so that as you move into that posture of giving, you have that sense of ability to do so in balance. Anytime you need, I invite you back to rebalance with me to visit this practice again. Thank you so much, and may all of your good deeds bring you fullness and completeness